Well, here's a fun recipe. It brings me back to my childhood. This is a Christmas biscuit that my mother made every year. And one of the best parts of it, I'll show you later, was that all the broken ones we got to eat. Now, I've changed it a little bit, and I've added Dilmah Italian Almond Tea, because the recipe itself has almonds in it. So I thought it was natural that we can actually infuse tea into this cookie. It'll give it texture, colour, and also a point of difference. Again, that's what we're after this Christmas. So we start off with some sifted flour, almond meal, and to that I add the tea. Now when you add the tea to pastry, you'll find that depending on what tea it is, the leaves can be either quite large or quite small. Now these are sort of medium size. And one of the best things about Dilmah tea, if you look into this, there's not one stem, there's not one branch. This tea is pure 2 leaves and a bud. A little bit of salt, some sugar, and then to bring it all together, I've got some very cold butter. The reason it needs to be cold is this pastry is very short. When I say short, it means that there's a lot of butter in it. So the dough will actually become sticky if the butter is not cold. What I'm trying to do here is actually rub it in my hands to make breadcrumbs. That way you know that the butter is totally infused throughout the mixture. Try not to use too much surface area of your fingers or your hands when you're breaking this up, and work very quickly. Don't have the butter in your fingers for more than a few seconds. And as it gets smaller and smaller and blends with the flour, the sugar, the almond meal and the tea, you'll find that you're able to rub it together with your palms. So now it resembles coarse breadcrumbs. The butter has been totally infused, and now to bring it together. 1 egg, lightly beaten, poured onto this dough, will bring it all together. And now you see what I mean about it being very short. It's a sticky paste. Normally when you make a short crust pastry, you actually end up with something that's more of a dough. But this is like a paste. And the reason is there's so much butter in it. So don't be scared. What we're going to do now is, in a way, I guess, brew the tea within the pastry, bring it together, and again, if you play with it too much, the butter will melt. So what I've done is just put it together, I'm going to roll it out, put it in some plastic, and put it in the fridge to set. The quicker it'll get hard. Right, that goes in the fridge. It'll take at least an hour for it to all set, for the flavour of the tea to come through, and then after that we can bake it. Alright, so the last step, while my pastry is setting, I've got a little bit more Italian almond tea plus some vanilla sugar. So the Italian almond tea crushed through the vanilla sugar, and when the crescents come out of the oven, we'll roll them in this, and it'll give that beautiful dusting over the top, but have a lovely flavour of tea too. So that's it. We've just got to wait now, let the pastry set, cook the crescents, and then roll them in my vanilla sugar and Dilmah Italian Almond Tea rub. So now the pastry for the Italian almond crescents is nice and hard. It's rested, and it's really important to rest your dough, because when you rest the dough, the gluten in the flour shrinks back to its normal size, and therefore when you cook whatever pastry you're making, it won't shrink. The next thing, again, you have to work quickly. Just cut little pieces. All right, so slice a little portion, maybe 10 or 12 slices, You can see in there all the beautiful Italian almond tea, and then put the rest in the fridge because you have to work very quickly. Dust your hands with a little bit of flour and then roll them. What you're aiming to do is to get a little roll with two pointy edges and then gently twist it. Now if you use too much flour, you're going to end up with a tough cookie. So you've got to work quickly, as little flour as possible, roll it out, and then let your fingers do the work. Okay, here they are, piping hot out of the oven. Now you have to be really gentle with them. The Italian almond tea is in the icing sugar as well as in the biscuit itself. And it's nice to be able to get these crescents into the dip, which is icing sugar, Italian almond tea, while they're warm. Because that way the icing sugar will melt on them and they will hold on to that icing sugar. These can be kept for ages as well. They never last though. I'll guarantee you the same thing in your house. Uh-oh, a broken one. What a shame. Now, I don't know whether you remember, but I put some salt into this mixture and it really pays off because a lot of the flavours that come out to me, Christmas would not be the same without these almond crescents. But once I infused Dilmah's Italian almond tea into it, it has changed it for the better. I think this tea is so well suited to cook with. It tastes good as a drink, but I find as a substitute for a marzipan or a substitute for almonds, when you cook, it is absolutely stunning. And there's another little thing, that sometimes when you cook with tea, when you infuse with tea, it's not always about the tea coming through. Sometimes it's about replacing a normal ingredient with tea. So in this case, I've used almonds, but also the Italian almond tea. Perfect combination. Christmas wouldn't be the same without it. I hope you join my traditions and get into these beautiful Italian almond crescents.